Welcome to Get Offset. My name is Emily.
I'm Joan of Heart.
And there's been some really surprising Marshall news this week.
Yes, there has. It's been all over the internet.
I gotta admit, I didn't see that one coming. I didn't see Marshall selling in general, though that doesn't fully surprise me. But who they sold to really does make me laugh a little. I thought it was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, the timing of it made me think that too. And they sold to Swedish company Zounds.
Yeah, and what does Zounds do?
Pretty much Bluetooth speakers, and it's pretty much kind of like a brand. They did the whole like Bluetooth speakers, like when you're camping out, little amp, and then like also I think like they did the glasses as well, the little fridge. I mean,
They
I've
did the
also
fridge.
did they do I'm the
That
brand
Marshall's
licensing because I when I was looking into it, I was seeing basically they licensed out mainly to Zounds originally. And the pairing was so potent as far as I guess business venture that Zounds ended up going, you know what? We don't want to pay the licensing anymore. So can we just buy you guys? We'll leave you on the board. You guys can still hang out, have majority.
Yeah, I've seen those little speakers, like, I was in
Mm,
Best Buy getting something, and I saw the little speakers there, and I remember thinking that they looked super goofy.
yes.
Yeah, I just want my Bluetooth speakers to look like a Bluetooth speaker, I want my
Yeah.
amp to look like an amp, and,
So
never the 2 shall meet.
separation of the two worlds would be great.
Yeah, it's definitely kinda like man cave vibes, not more
Mm.
man caves than that little Marshall fridge. Which I was talking about that with my coworkers the other day, like, I can't believe that's real. I mean, I know it's been around for years and people would buy them, and, like, at Guitar Center, they always have, like, Rockstar energy drinks in them or whatever. Like, they look nice, but there's something about, like, a fridge where the inside of the refrigerator is black that really skeeves me out. I can't explain
Yeah.
that. It 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 doesn't look right.
No, it doesn't, and of course, like, some of the things that people have joked about, like, bands have had them on stage, like, looking like an actual amp, but it's not, they just open the fridge like a gag.
It's really goofy to me, and, like, power to you if that's how you wanna spend $400 to $500 depending on the model that you get, but,
Yeah.
uh, not for me, like, I've said this a bunch of times, I don't want things that aren't guitar things to look like guitar things particularly. Like, I know people who have, like, the I think it's, like, the Marshall keychain thing as well, I
Yes,
think that they do that.
I admit I was tempted during the pandemic by that, and I was like, "Yeah, I could just be like a gear nerd to the full extent and just, time to jack in, like, the keys when I come in the door into the amp, I look cute." But yeah, no, I
It's
didn't.
functional, that's functional, and not that this little mini fridge isn't functional, but,
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's too expensive for college students,
Yeah, it
and
is.
it's just, like, classic man cave stuff that and your, like, neon Budweiser signs, and I'm really painting a picture there in my brain.
Mm.
Yeah. I don't know, do like, I when I envision a man cave, it is very stuck in the early 2000s.
I guess so. Trying to think. Yeah, I guess I did I? No, high school around that time. So yeah, that would make sense. Kind of like, yeah, yeah. Thinking about it.
But, I know they're not they can't be the first, like, music brand that's sold to a non-music company. I'm, I mean, Gibson is kind of a similar thing, though I don't think I selling to a Bluetooth speaker company is genuinely interesting and strange. I mean, they're both audio, but one's consumer audio and one's considered MI and pro audio. That's not to say consumers don't buy Marshall products. Obviously, they do, but it just seems really it's interesting. I'm not going to shit on it because who knows if they could do a really good job with it. But I was surprised to see, and I would love to kind of understand how that went down. Because it does
Um,
feel very like we like you said, don't wanna pay the licensing anymore, can we just buy you outright? And I guess they're selling a lot of speakers.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the gist that I got when I did preliminary research was that originally, I think about a decade ago, I think that's when the partnership started, and then they're basically were doing the Bluetooth speakers and everything. I know it was a little bit back, but doing all that between them two and licensing, and making all the other side kind of you know, products and things that general population may like kind of on the brand name. And at a certain point, I just think they probably made enough money to say, "Hey, we work really well together. Why don't we buy you guys out? Maybe with the finances that our company has here, maybe it'll keep the company afloat. Maybe with the financial backing, you'll be able to take more innovative risks with speakers, amps going forward because they really haven't done much in a decade, really. Yeah, it just seems like I'm looking at it as things may not change at all, or maybe it may be the potential to finally start to take risks as a brand in a way that has a partner that may be willing to take more risks. But they're kind of formed together, the Marshall Group. So the family members are still on the board. They hold most of the shares. So they're still pretty much a player in deciding what goes and doesn't go. So, I'm curious to see whether are they keeping the same employees? Are they hiring new ones? What does that mean as well going forward?
My best guess is pretty immediately there's not gonna be a huge difference,
Hmm,
because they're still gonna need people who know how to build and sell like,
of
actual
course.
amps to do that. I think the marketing could potentially have more redundancies in other parts of it, just knowing marketing,
They could be
pretty
better in
well.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, but so Zound, not to be confused with the Zounds
Yeah.
retailer, um, they boast themselves as, "The House of Zound includes a portfolio of distinctive brands. We are home to Urban Ears, Marshall, and Adidas." So, obviously, they don't own Adidas, but they work with Adidas, they work with Urban Ears.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a concern as well. It's like, "Are we gonna see Adidas brand, like, amps?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, probably not,"
yeah,
but you never
why
know.
not?
I know.
So, Urban Ears I used to have some Urban Ears products, and they kind of
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know why. I think they maybe just stopped working, as they tend to do.
Oh, okay.
Their over ears are very sleek, very minimalist kind of stuff, so that's nice, but we're not talking about that. Marshall, they talk about sustainability, blah blah blah. The speakers, like, they don't look bad. I just like why? And then they have like headphones too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sure they're fine, but I don't know why, because speakers and headphones, like, they're not they're basically headphones are basically little speakers, that's literally what
Yeah.
they are, but for some reason, like, when brands that do one thing really well start branching into, like, headphones, like, amp companies making headphones, for some reason, for me, it just I don't assume it's going to be a very good product, like, I don't have the assumption, like, "Oh, it's Marshall, it's gonna be great." I kind of feel like it's more of a money grab lifestyle. Like, I feel like when that kind of stuff
Lifestyle,
happens, it
yeah.
ends up being very consumer product, and it's like I feel like it's a little bit confused.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the representation that Fender has done with the lifestyle kind of branding that they've done and kind of faded from popularity in general. I mean, I don't really see much in the world or vein of marketing or demos or really much of things that show Marshall wanting to put themselves out there very much or even artists using them very much. I mean, in my research that I was doing, I think Nita Strauss used when she just started playing with Alice, like a JVM 410 head. But other than that, like when I'm looking online, it's like it's not really something that is used today very much as far as the Marshall amps. I don't really
I
see much.
I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like I still see plenty of Marshalls on stages, like even small ones, but the days of just like plug in straight into a Marshall stack, they're over. they're over. Like, even if you play arenas, you're probably consistent like, constantly more likely to end up going direct, and
For
at
the
the
in-ear
very least
monitors, yeah.
yeah, because you're relying on in-ears. Like, Angus Young from AC/DC never moved to in-ear monitors, so he needs that Marshall stack
The
so he can move
loudness,
around the
yeah.
stage and still hear himself. But, most people, it's cool to care about your hearing now, and you see much smaller bands and even, like, local musicians using in-ear monitors, like I have them in right now, and I'll be using them on Wednesday to save their hearing, get a better mix directly to themselves, make it so they can move around the stage and still hear everything that's happening
Yeah.
in their mix. It's just a much better product overall, and it does take an investment because the thing is, you show up to a gig and they have wedges there. They may not have a transmitter emitter and receiver for your IEMs. In fact, they probably don't. So you're gonna have to get your own. You can get some affordable ones. I just picked up from Sweetwater sent me the Audio Technica 3000 series IEM system.
Okay.
So like, that's expensive, and the body pack itself is, kind of expensive, but I can run my whole band. I
Nice.
believe I can run my whole band on that, and it's going to be make lives a lot easier. You're gonna have consistent sound night to night, especially if you can log in with an app and set your own mixes, because a lot of modern digital mixers have apps. You can bounce in there, you can set your mix without having to bother the sound person too much.
No, and a lot of, I think, gear in general are starting to go through apps and be more technology based versus just being loud. I think
Yeah.
there definitely is a shift these days in the modern world.
Yeah, people don't want to be loud as like
You got neighbors.
yeah, I mean, like, I should say there are definitely people who want to be loud, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's as in style to blast people away. I think people don't want to go to shows and be in pain, frankly.
No, and I think from what I was reading about, because the in-ear monitors and with the loudness not being more of like what people go for with stage anymore, they said they've used Marshall amps below the stage facing down, mic'd was another way in which they do things now versus all of them on the stage.
Yeah, God, like, just put them in a room.
Yeah.
Um, I forget what I'm really tired. I cannot remember what that's called, like an ISO booth kind of situation. I've recorded in studios where I didn't have to have headphones or monitoring. They just played it because then you could just play it over the speakers, and
Oh,
I could
okay.
hear everything that I was doing. So I've recorded in that kind of environment too, and it was really pleasant
Nice.
because then you can put it in that room, you can crank it as loud as it needs to be cranked. It's not really going to
Nice.
bother anybody. But,
No.
people are constantly looking for smaller amps, lighter weight amps, things that
Mm.
have, like, modern touches, like headphone jacks and,
Yep.
XLR out with a cab sim even. Basically, I think the Tone Master series from Fender, that kind of vibe, is popular. People obviously are always gonna want tube amps, but when you look at, like, the price of a tube amp from a major retailer versus, like, a smaller builder like Benson, yeah, the
Mm.
Benson's probably more expensive, but I think, like, knowing me and just, like, my own purchase habits, that's what I bought when I wanted a tube amp. It's right behind me.
I love the little
But, I'm actually looking at reviews for these headphones. They're pretty good, but I'm not sure if people are using them for travel. Um, I don't know if people are using them in, like, studio environments. I think the
Yeah.
AKG 701Ks are
I
still
didn't
gonna be
I
more
didn't
popular there.
see yeah, I didn't see anyone talking about using these headphones and playing guitar, like, at all. Like, it definitely seemed like a more, lifestyle, like, on the go, like, kind of scenarios regarding these kind of headphones.
Yeah, and I think, like, kinda the imagery in, the ads is a little interesting if I remember correctly. I think it was just, like, let's see, a young woman listening to music, and that's that's the image I saw. I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah,
well,
not
it."
really gear or music well, besides listening, it's listening kind of approach to music as opposed to, playing music while obviously keeping the volumes down, keeping it in your headset, like, not really that kind of a focus.
Yeah, and just going back to the headphones, like,
Mhm.
they are Bluetooth headphones, so you wouldn't use those to mix, you wouldn't use those to
Anyway,
play
yep,
because you got the latency,
yep.
Bluetooth has a minimum latency of, I think, 30 milliseconds, and the longest latency you're gonna get on wired is probably 10 milliseconds, and that's a huge difference. That and, like, the compression you get from Bluetooth is never going to sound as good as a really nice set of reference monitors, because it's just required to send it over the wave. So if like if you pay for MQ master quality audio on Tidal and you're listening to it on Bluetooth headset, you're probably not getting the full experience of what you pay for. You are probably going to want to invest in a really nice set of like earphones. Like I use my in-ear monitors for listening a lot
Mm,
critical listening. I have the Ultimate Ears Reference Remastered that I use for recording demos, and then I have the UE18 Plus that I use to perform live because it's louder and has more headroom. And they're just they sound really good.
well,
Oh my
that's always
god.
the good aspect of that. It's if it sounds good, like, that's important.
Yeah, but, like, it's not just, like, if it sounds good to you, there really are scenarios where you need to have something that is good, actually is good. I mean, you should make sure that your mixes pass the Bluetooth audio test, but that shouldn't be, I don't think, where you start. I think that you should start with something nicer, put everything in the mix together, and, work backwards from that in terms of quality. Because if you mix it if it sounds good in one thing, it's not always going to sound good in every other environment. The goal
Yep.
of mixing and mastering is to make it sound as good as possible in every environment, but that's not
Try.
always
No.
reached.
No, I've in previous, recording mixes and stuff like that, I tried to, at least through not just my headset, but monitors and trying to hear it in the car, try to hear it everywhere, and it's maddening to try to obviously make something sound good everywhere.
Yeah, and, eventually you just have to kinda pick, and, the thing is most people do just listen on, like, AirPods.
Yep.
I do think that the listening devices we have are getting better than they were, like, when you and I were in high school, where
Yeah.
you go to the store, you'd get, like, $10 shitty ass
Those
little
little
earbuds.
pods, yeah.
Yeah, and there was, like, no,
Skull candy.
no passive noise isolation, so
Mm-mm.
everything was escaping your ear, so you had to really crank it. It was awful products.
God,
And
yeah, and it would
people
just yeah.
yeah, and when iTunes came out, people started listening to MP3 players, there were studies of people who had, like, mostly listened to music on those kinds of devices, and found that they preferred the tinnier sound of an MP3 to the higher fidelity sound of a FLAC because that's what they were used to.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, long story short, Marshall sold the company to the people who make their speakers. Um, an interesting choice, not an unheard of kind of thing that people do sometimes.
Yeah.
So, we don't know what it's going to hold. There probably won't be
No
any
idea.
meaningful changes for years, is my guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be instantaneous. I think that whatever is happening right now, either it's been in the pipeline for a little bit, maybe between planning the both of them, maybe. Maybe this
Oh,
is a
I'm sure it's
surprise
been
to us. Yeah, that's what
yeah.
I'm saying. It's probably a surprise to us, but it's probably already been kind of getting in line to happen. And it'll probably, yeah, I think maybe within a year or so, I think we'll start to see shifts. I'm already seeing people talk about, oh, maybe we should start coveting the before Zounds merger amps, and I'm like, in market value, and I'm just like, oh no, the chaos begins.
Yeah, people like doing that, and,
Yeah,
sometimes they're right,
of course.
when DoD kind of shut down
Mhm.
operations, people who were like, "Buy the rubberneck now,"
Yeah,
they were
I
right.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, because it became like,
Skyrocket.
you get it for 80 bucks, and then it became really sought after, and then people turned around and sold them for, like, 300 bucks, if not
Mhm.
more. So, sometimes those people are right, but in this case, Marshall amps aren't going away. They are a legacy brand. That's why the like, Zound made money putting the logo on speakers
Yes.
to the point that they wanted to buy the whole company. It's the reason people buy like listen, I know people clown on like uh Fender did a collaboration with Brixton. They make hats. They actually made the shirt I'm wearing we're in Brixton right now, but like fedoras and cowboy hats
Yeah, I saw
and
those,
straw
yeah.
hats and like baseball caps. Some of them look really cool. Like there was that corduroy Jaguar hat. I actually sent that to Working Class Music. I think I've seen it in a video or two of theirs. I told them they had to share it. Um, People clowned on that first collaboration, and then Fender went around and did another one. So obviously they made money doing it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do
Somebody
it again if they
definitely.
had. And now they're selling ski goggles, which seems a little bit farther from it for me. But
Yeah, I don't get that one. I don't get that one.
I don't. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of crossover. I used to work for a music festival that happened in Leavenworth, Washington in the winter, really close to a ski resort. And we had
Mhm.
a partnership with a ski resort where you could get cheaper day passes for the lifts
Okay.
if, in a bundle. And one of the bands asked in their contract for a ski pass, and they didn't use them, but there's obviously overlap. But winter
Yeah.
sports in general are inherently bougie because the uh, entry cost is a lot more expensive than like playing soccer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm not saying everyone who does winter sports is affluent, but uh, it does tend to err that way. Like, how do you be? I would look at Olympic athletes sometimes, like um the luge and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you get into that? Like, you obviously have to grow up around somewhere that has
Yeah, has
that,
that. Yep.
and like who like those big indoor facilities, they're really expensive.
Yeah, but then you also have those magical instances where you have like bobsledding and there's Jamaican bobsled teams. So I
Yeah,
mean, things could happen depending on
yeah.
your region.
Well,
Sometimes it's possible.
and then you look at how they practice in a very dangerous way,
Yes.
and then they didn't do so hot in the actual Olympics, which was sad, but still a great movie. Cool
It is.
Runnings,
It is.
classic film. Yeah, I mean ice skating though. I'm working farther, but ice skating is relatively diplomatic. Like, not diplomatic. That's not the right word. It's an equalizer. You know, I Tanya
Yeah.
Harding was not was not affluent at all. Or is
Yeah.
it? Yeah,
Just buying
Tanya wasn't.
skates,
Nancy
really.
was maybe.
Yeah, buying skates, yeah, no, it's not really that high of an entry cost to get in. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, the sports that I guess would be hockey would be, especially for goaltenders. Yeah, there definitely are sports in which, yeah, there's a little bit of higher, or you have to be in a region or area that enables you to kind of get the practice and training that you would in order to excel in those sports. And yeah, not
yeah.
every region is caters to that.
The northern region's a little bit more
Yeah.
so. It's just more popular up there. So let's talk
Definitely.
more about guitars. That wasn't the only thing that Marshall had going on, but they also are re-releasing some pedals.
Yes, yes, they are. They're re-releasing, and this came before this whole announcement on the buyout. Re-releasing of the Governor, the Drive Master, the Blues Breaker, which the internet was mostly excited about, and the Shred Master. From what I looked up, the Governor is pretty much a classic, kind of like their first supposed amp in a box in history. It also, Jim Marshall's nickname around the factory was the Governor, so that was the reason why eventually it kind of was named that. Um, Classic kind of controls gain, bass, middle treble, and the level. It has an effects loop, and I thought it was
Hmm.
interesting between the Governor and the Drive Master is that they're almost like the same pedal, but the Drive Master is the one that doesn't have the effects loop, and it has like a little subtle differences in some of the tweaks as far as sounds, but they're essentially still both a Governor. So I thought
Huh.
that was interesting to release two pedals that were very similar and just having subtle differences in a line. That
Do they
that
have different
I
price points?
I assume one having the FX loop and one not definitely would set the price between the two a little different. The
Hmm.
Blues Breaker was pretty much a recreation of the 1962 amp in a box that they released. A lot of the times I saw people were comparing the two. They kept this big box style with these pedals. And I don't know in this day and age whether that really is a great idea. I keep seeing some brands when they do reissues, and I'm not talking about the JHS with EHS, Slap Echo recently, which I'm grateful for making things smaller when they reissue things. But yeah, I've been seeing that, yeah, we're going to reissue them, but they like put it in the same like gigantic box. And I was like, yeah, pedal board not friendly. Like, no, don't
Yeah,
do that.
it's the same big box was taking up a lot of real
Yeah.
estate, just a big switch in the middle and all the knobs at the top. I mean, there are obviously going to be more space efficient ways to do this.
Hmm.
What kills me is that like, the fonts are the same in
Yeah.
my eye. Like, they just look the same. They like, there's a fine line between vintage and dated, and I don't know if this aesthetic is vintage yet.
Hmm.
But, I mean, I guess why screw with something if it's working on one hand? Maybe the people that this pedal would appeal to most are also already drawn to that aesthetic. I hope they did
Already.
some testing, but I would have not been sad to see a more updated look. But then
Me
again,
too.
weren't we just talking about their budget pedals they had a while back and clowning on them for lack of a better word? Like like
Yeah.
they didn't look good is what I remember.
Yeah, and again, with the line itself, like I understand it's a reissue, and of course, even when they were saying it's a reissue, like these pedals, it's just newer parts to create the same sound. But yeah, some of that stuff doesn't exist anymore. So I kind of figure, like in comparison, anybody out there doing between the two, do they really sound the same? With the updates, are there any differences? Um, the what do you call it? The Blues Breaker is a soft clipping diode. The Because you really have to push that one, and the Glovener is pretty much like a hard, just much like the Shred Master, which is more like I guess like the '90s shred tone, and it has like a scoop contour, which is pretty great. Yeah, I mean, as far as the line goes, it's interesting, and with the price point, I mean, me personally, when it comes to like amp sims and stuff like that for Marshall wise, I have the Catalan Bread Dirty Little Secret that pretty much covers all the bases, and it's like a little small pedal on my board. It's perfect for that. And it creates sounds from like the Plexi to like the JCM 800. And with the lead and the super bass switch, it's not like it's two channel. It's like basically having two pedals inside one box. It's great.
Yeah, that's something that I that's a great point. Like, there are already a lot of really
Yeah,
good,
competitors.
robust, affordable, clones of these, and obviously, being the name brand can pull some
Of
weight.
course.
But if it's something you've just been kind of ignoring for a very long time, I just don't really I
No.
don't really see the benefit. Like, I don't really see how that's gonna work out for you, if you catch my drift. Like, uh, people have
Yeah.
already they got stuff they like that scratches that itch,
No, of course.
and it's just like, did you miss the boat? Were you waiting too long? Like, 'cause you can't really cease and desist this stuff because
No.
schematics aren't,
Mm-mm.
you can't patent them, trademark them, copyright them, or whatever. I forget which exactly one it is. I don't think it's copywriting. I think it's
Yeah.
trademarking or
Yeah, that
patenting.
that makes more sense.
And, yeah, I there's a lot of people making these from, like, Joyo for, like, $60 on Amazon to really high-end boutique companies. It's
Yeah.
just I think it's gonna be a hard sell, especially with that footprint, but people seem really excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're going back to that whole brand kind of riding, I guess, on the coattails of whom what the legacy of Marshall is. And I think in re-releasing these pedals as a reissue, exactly how they looked and everything, they wanted to give people who basically want that kind of look, aesthetic, and sound like the originals. And maybe that's their larger demographic, so that's who they cater to. Maybe our generation or people after us, like, don't really care for such things and they're more about the sound, only as opposed to aesthetics and, trying to chase vintage sounds as much.
Yeah, but, like, they gotta I mean, if you wanna look forward, you can't look back,
I know.
and I think the people that maybe this would appeal most to, they are getting older,
Hmm.
and They also had a chance to buy that stuff the first time around. So that's like, but if they couldn't afford it back then, that's sad,
That's
and I get it. But you don't think they found something else in the meantime? How much
I'm
are these?
sure.
Like
I'm
250
sure.
bucks?
I'm thinking maybe. Hold on, let me see. Marshall.
Oh, it's on Reverb for 250, the Blues
Okay.
Breaker.
So yeah, 250 kind of seems to be about that's their mark. I mean pedals these days. I mean that's typically like a boutique or stuff like that. That's more like 200, 250 kind of
The Dirty Little Secret's
area.
180 new.
I know,
I'm
that's what I'm
telling
saying,
you.
like, Dirty Little Secret is, like, 179. Yeah, so you're
Yeah.
getting that sound for a lot less, and that's why I was mentioning and bringing it up. Cause I was like, I love that pedal. If I want a Marshall sound, I mean, I don't have any room for more amps. I only have 2. So, for
No.
me, space saving is really important, so which is why I tend to, like, lean more towards effects pedals than, obviously, other aspects like amps and stuff like that to recreate sounds. But, yeah, that little amp sim is just great for what I need it for whenever I want that kind of sound. And yeah, for the price, it's just 179.
This week's episode of Get Offset is brought to you by Moog Music. Moog instruments continue to inspire artists and listeners around the world. As music technology continues to evolve, the company and its employee owners carry on Bob Moog's devotion to creating innovative tools designed for the musician. Moog Music's latest venture is a reimagining of some of its most influential analog instruments of the past for today's audio production workflow. The Moogerfooger Effects Plug-ins are compatible across all major DAWs on Windows and Mac OS, making the Moog sound more accessible than ever. I use the MF108 Cluster Flux, a flexible processor that can modulate between chorus, flanging, and vibrato in the background track you're listening to right now. I love this effect. It's probably the most used of the plugins. For me personally, I even use it in a recent recording project. Learn more about the Moogerfooger Effects plugins by clicking the link in the video or podcast description or by visiting software.moogmusic.com. That's software.moggmusic.com. Yeah, so thanks again to Moog for sponsoring this week's episode of the Get Offset podcast. I really do recommend those plugins. I actually have been using them pretty consistently in my own recording, and I think they sound great.
Nice. And thank you again, Moog, for sponsoring.
Yeah. So, Joe, what's new with you? You seem like maybe you had something big happen last week.
I birthed a demo baby, essentially. The marshmallow demo is out. I put timestamps in it. I'm excited about it and people seeing it. Basically, a lot of modes to explain. It has the mod mode, we go through everything. Mod mode, RP, arpeggiator, random, ring, and cloud, which is kind of like having a delay and reverb in one pedal. And it really twists and really modulates in weird ways. And of course, I have, as usual, a animated aspect of it of Marshmallow, kind of helps me through it, and his voice is put through the pedal as one of the pitches because it is kind of like a dual pitch shifter pedal. You can get chorus sounds out of it, organ effects and many different I mean, it's really kind of like a Swiss Army knife tool in a box, especially when you pair it with other pedals. So I kind of geared this demo more towards, I think, ambient guitar players or sound designers, because I think it'd be really good when you put it in mix with other pedals rather than by itself. And a lot of people have been putting this pedal demo wise, just kind of like showing examples of it by itself. But I definitely think as putting it with other pedals, that's kind of where it shines the most in the mix. So that's what I kind of focused on. Um, it is a longer demo, much like the Maw demo was, because the more I have to explain in these demos, the more time it takes to do that. And whenever I set out to do a demo, I never really know like how long they are until I start stitching them together. And then I was like, well,
They're as long as they need to be.
thank you. Yeah, it's Yeah, it's always a surprise to me, and it's always guessing, "Okay, how long's this one gonna be?"
Mhm.
But I definitely in the next one I do, I think I'm gonna go a little simpler. But I did put timestamps, so in every mode, you can hop around. There's gags in there, there's jokes, kind of the way I normally describe things. A lot of demo dialogue at the very beginning of it, so obviously have patience if it's not something you're used to or like as far as demos go. Maybe it's not for you. But yeah, very story driven kind of like a cartoon show kind of where we walk through the pedal in a way that is mildly entertaining with a marshmallow talking. Yeah, well, I wouldn't say mildly, but he's pretty sweet, I can say that,
Yeah.
but he gets into a lot of trouble.
I heard Devon talk about that a little bit.
Yes, yes, he was very he was definitely a part of this, I guess spoiler alert in one way or another. And he's also, as I've said on this podcast before, one of the reasons why I started to do this, because I listened to that episode in which he talked with Emily and Andrew on the Get Offset podcast. So
Mhm.
listening to that episode is pretty much what started me to start to put music and things out. So I am also very grateful to, you, Emily, and Andrew, and Davon for that, because it's that started me with putting stuff out myself, music, and I've been able to do and experience a lot of things musically and push myself creatively in ways that I otherwise wouldn't have if I guess I had been not open to a new perspective on music, being a musician and artist. So
Aw,
I'm always grateful for that. I always tell him, I'm sure he's tired of it. Or and anybody that I tell that I'm like, thank you so much. I appreciate. I'm so grateful. Like I was like, I'm sure you're tired of me saying that, but I'm still
I
gonna
never get
say
tired of hearing
it.
compliments.
So yeah, it's out. I'm excited for anybody can watch it. I figure with the timestamps, if you can't, it's harder to watch something that long in one setting.
It
But
is.
yeah, so I mean, the ring mod is pretty fun because and even recording this, I was like, I never. Even for me, I was like, when I go into pedals, like there's sometimes like things that I've never explored before. And I was like, I never really played with a ring mod before. So through the process of doing this demo, I was like, okay, like I kind of learned about the ways in which people do use it, and yeah, it can get pretty doomy and fun. So yeah, that was a fun aspect.
Nice, yeah. Definitely check that out. I've been working through it. I don't I'll probably watch it after my gig next Wednesday. I have a gig the day after this podcast comes out at the Tractor Tavern in Seattle on April 5th. I'm in the house band for a John Prine tribute show, and I practiced so much yesterday that my
Yes.
fingers hurt very badly today,
Oh.
and I thought my calluses were better than that, but I guess not.
No,
Been
you've been working hard. Yeah, so I'm
been
I'm really
dipping them in
hoping.
ice water a lot,
Oh.
my fingers. Yeah, I know some of this I already knew some of the songs, but I'm not saying I'm gonna phone it in, but they're definitely focusing more on the new ones. Some of them are pretty rippin', as they say. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I got a lot cut out for me today. Got some editing to do, including this podcast probably, and, I gotta practice for that, and what else? I'm sure there's more shit, I just have not remembered, but,
No. I Again, what I've seen online of you practicing, I mean, I think you'll do pretty well.
thank you for the faith, I don't know about that, uh, I always
I
find a way
believe
to
you. I believe
fuck
in
up.
you.
I always find a way to fuck up, don't worry about it, but it's just kinda thing where there's gonna be one rehearsal, I
Hmm.
there's a singer who still hasn't said what song she wants to sing, so it's
Oh
gonna be kinda like,
no.
well, you might be on your own for that one, um yeah,
It's gonna
rehearsals are tomorrow, and I don't know what song she wants to sing. It just kinda sounds like maybe she's not doing
not
it.
gonna do it.
I'm
Well, maybe
curious.
she's erring on the side of caution, maybe would be good.
No, I'm they're not she's not signed up for rehearsal either. I
Oh,
just
okay.
kind of think it's, I don't know, last time this happened, it was
Hmm.
to me, it was the Women of Country Music thing, and the person who didn't send her songs just dropped out at the last minute.
Ugh,
So, it just
uh-uh. All that time, yeah, practicing, and then someone drops out.
I mean, I didn't even practice for them. So,
Okay.
how can I practice? I don't know what the songs are. So, today, while my fingers recover a little bit, I'm just gonna make sure my charts are in order, in line, that I kind of have at least tabbed out the other stuff that I need. And, yeah, hopefully at some point today I'll be able to press my fingers down against some strings again. I'm really embarrassed by how much pain I'm in.
Hmm.
It's Calvin Bread released STS-88
Yes,
this week.
the
It's a
flange and
flanger and
reverb.
reverb, kind of a flurb from the Holy Grail, if you are familiar. Um,
It sounded really great.
yeah, I thought so. I know flanger's not the most popular effect, but I think that Callan Bread found a way to make it really, really cool, sound really musical and versatile. Um, and I had fun playing like some 80s washy stuff, some kind of funky stuff, and then like some real reverb drenched vibes. So check out that demo if you haven't. So yeah, Joe and I both had demos out last week. Very fun. Always cool to have. I also released an April Fool's video on
Yes.
Friday. Internally, I called it "Oops All Affirmations" or "Oops All Compliments." So please go watch that if you haven't. If you're having a
That's
bad
great.
day,
Yeah.
maybe that'll make you feel better.
Run that in the background. Just
Someone said they've been wanting a video like that for a year, and I responded, I'm like, I've just been kind of waiting for someone to do a supercut.
just chop them all up together. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that would have been cute. But no, so I just did it myself.
No time. Yeah.
No, that does take
Yeah,
time
take
to do
time,
those
yeah,
kind
to
of
go
things.
through all through your videos and just cut those parts out. Yeah, that would have taken a while.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. People do it though. People do stuff like that. And Sweetwater had a fun video. I don't know if how many of all y'all out there saw it. They didn't. It was just on YouTube, but the big clickbait was no more candy.
Yes.
And
Carlos is upset by that.
yeah, so I'm not going to spoil it, but please go check that out. You might see some familiar faces in it,
Yeah, I
especially
think I
mine.
think yeah, I think I saw a familiar face, yes.
Mhm. I did so many takes of that.
Yeah. So
It
what
was
what was
fun.
in the box?
Oh, it was just a box I had.
That was so funny though. Like, oh, that poor guitar case.
Just slamming a whole ass chocolate cake into the guitar case.
Oh, it just slam.
Go watch that one. It was pretty
Yes.
funny. There were some good April Fools things this year.
Yeah.
JHS did theirs a day early. I liked this year's prank of theirs
That was
better than
pretty good.
last year's. Last year's I thought was kind of It was
Mm.
interesting but fine. But this one was so for those who know or don't know, JHS has several pedals that are several takes on the same circuit. So they have Tube Screamer, Big Muffin, Rat,
Mhm.
and this one is called the Bat Sim. And the idea is there are different batteries. So Josh is like, I've been looking at 9 volts from around the world, and
Yes.
there are controls for voltage, capacity, and age. And
Yeah,
it's
they
really
they almost
interesting.
got me, to be honest, because they recently did that whole, like, was it the Vulture or the Volt one? The little small pedal that they released, which was basically doing that whole voltage control, like, utility pedal. So then when they did this for the April Fools, I was just like, "Okay, are they expanding on that? Like, what?" And then, of course, you add to cart, and it's like a T-shirt that it says, "I
Yeah.
want to believe."
It says, yeah, I believe in magic is what it
Yes,
says.
that's what it was. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Man. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at their website. I didn't realize how many three series pedals they had. 1, 2, 6, 9, 12, 13. That's a lot.
Oof.
That's a lot of pedals. Yeah, I'm trying to find the one that you're talking about.
So the Vulture, hold on.
Those Legends of Fuzz series pedals, they're pretty big too. I forgot how big those were.
Volt.
Let's see. boost, delay, compression,
There he is.
utilities. Oh
Oh,
yeah, the
vulture.
vulture.
Yeah, it's with an O instead of a U. Yeah. So yeah, that is like just a little small utility pedal, obviously, to pretty much, I guess, reenact like of a dying battery, how the fuzz, interacts with that. So that's why originally I was like, okay, so that's why I almost believed it.
Yeah, so the vulture goes between the power supply and the pedals power, is what it looks like. So you can input 9, 12, or 18 and output adjustable from 7.5 down to 1.25. So yeah, it is literally replicating a dying battery. That's
Hmm.
actually kind of cool. Personally, like I would just pick a fuzz pedal that has voltage control. But if you don't have that, if you really like your fuzz,
Yeah.
um, this is an option. It's $80.
That's not bad for a utility pedal. It's kind of, I think, if I look up, hold on.
I don't know. I don't think I'd spend $80 to sound like I
I
have a
don't,
dying
yeah.
battery.
Hold on. I'm trying. No, probably not to have a dying battery, but expression. I wonder if that's typically like. Well, I mean, if you look at Old Blood Noise Endeavors, I think it's kind of like 70 is kind of the range for I think like the
That's what utility
that's
pedals cost.
yeah
This is only to be used with
it's rampant.
analog fuzzes. So it says specifically, do not pair with any digital logic circuitry based pedal.
Oof,
Otherwise, the user risks potential damage to the
damage. Yeah,
pedal being powered due to inadequate voltage. As long as your pedal is all analog, you'll be fine.
yeah. I mean
Yeah.
that makes sense because I mean with digital, yeah, you're gonna run the risk of doing damage.
Mm-hmm. And you don't want to do that. So
Nope.
yeah, that was a funny joke. I dug it. Another one I saw was big ear pedals chase the
Yes.
and then bunny with bunny crossed out money bank, and it is literally a little pedal bank, a piggy bank kind of situation, so you can put your coins in it.
I thought that was pretty funny. And yeah, the Chase is their they have two bunnies. Chase is the male bunny of the two. I think the other one's name is Pam. But yeah, it just pretty much was him basically beating the pedal to get the pennies out, and they had like a whole skit. So it was pretty
Mhm.
funny. You should watch it. It's good.
That was a really well done video.
Yeah, it
I
was.
appreciate it. So the knobs turn and the switch clicks, but it doesn't do anything.
No.
There are only 41 of them. They are $41. That comes to about an even 50 plus tax with shipping. Um, yeah, cute. That's a fun one. I always like it when the April Fools actually are real products. Like
Yeah, that you can
Caroline
buy.
Guitar Company did one too. They did one especially the other year called the Blues. Um, oh, and the humbuckle. That's a real thing.
That's crazy.
If you didn't see that one, Reverb and Chipson collaborated to do a belt buckle that looks like a humbucker. Not the stupidest thing I've ever seen. That's also definitely far from the stupidest belt buckle specifically I've ever seen.
Oh my
The,
god.
the video was great. It was like an old like Calvin Klein ad or something. It was like black and white, and they just kept saying humbuckle, humbuckle, humbuckle. Like wow, yeah, those ads really were like that.
Yeah, the cologne commercial, like, "Do you" or, like, some kind of, like, whispering as the person was, like, walking around in a sunset, like, dancing with no one around somewhere in a desert.
Just covered in like just sand sparkling on their like wet greasy bodies. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah, I'm
Or
looking at the photo, it's pretty funny with a little humbucker, like, on the buckle of, like, of some pants, actual yeah, I mean, that's design-wise, yeah, somebody may want to, obviously, match their humbucker belt with their humbucker pickups.
yeah, it's another thing where it's like I wouldn't buy this, but I wouldn't fault you if you did. It's it's fine. It's fine. Is what I can say about it. Like it looks exactly like a
It does.
humbucker, so that points there because
Yep.
sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Um, you can pre-order it now, $69. Nice. I
69, dude.
I'm gonna be honest. I've probably spent more on a belt buckle, but this is it's just very. It's a square, so it's very utilitarian belt buckle. So Yeah. There you go. I got nothing else to say about that. The packaging
No.
looks kind of vintagey and nice. That's kind of funny, but it doesn't really fit the ad at all.
No.
Yeah. So, made in the USA includes free custom ships in USA design box, or the box made in the USA.
Maybe
Is the
just the
belt buckle?
box.
Oh, the pedal is handmade and assembled in Oakland. I have to imagine these weren't super duper cheap to make. Like this is custom factioning a little bit. But
Yeah, as far
I
as the box
wish
goes, yeah. Like I can see at least here.
it,
Almost looks like, yeah.
yeah, the box looks like it was like really old. And then the ad was very like 90s
Vintage.
cologne. Yeah. I don't know if we can call the 90s vintage. Let's not.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Wow.
Hold on, I'm just gonna go hide.
You're the one who did it. Damn, I didn't do anything.
I just put myself out there routinely.
Oh my god. Da, 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 da. All right. Notifications that I can ignore. What else did we mentioned for those April Fools? Oh, Megan L. That
Yes.
was a great one. So
That was
Megan
amazing.
L, fellow demo artist, check out Megan's channel and follow Megan on Instagram and all that good stuff.
Mm,
Did a video about her SG because Megan usually plays offsets
yeah.
and started playing an SG and like she got some weird comments about it. So
Yeah.
she decided to do this. It was very like It Follows horror movie kind of vibe. It was really,
Yeah.
really good. Uh very well done. Like I knew Megan was like really talented in terms of like drawing and like
Mhm.
animation, like is for lack of a better word. Like but damn, I didn't that was art. That was
Yeah,
great.
that was art. It was like a suspense thriller, but like at certain points, I was literally laughing out loud when watching it. I was enjoying it so much because some of the humor in there was just like, oh my god, this is yeah. I mean, I already love everything that Megan does, but just yeah, this was just so good.
Megan always kills it, man. That's all I
Yeah,
gotta
she does.
say. So yeah, definitely check that out. I laughed a lot about the "Where did I even get that shirt?" comment.
Yeah.
So, um, kudos, Megan. That was great. If there were any April Fool's things that y'all liked that we forgot, drop them in the comments. I know Gibson did a cologne and another company did a cologne, and then the humbuckle being like basically a cologne commercial. I'm like, I think a lot of people kind of were like fishing in the same pond.
Yeah. Somebody
Uh,
talked to someone, and then someone went into their company's, like, boardroom. "Yeah, I talked to this kid, and they're doing this." Like, "Oh, yeah, we should do something similar to that." Like, that's probably what happened.
I don't know about that. I think that,
Yeah.
people can come to those ideas independently. It's like that quote from Mad Men, like, direct marketing, I thought of that. Turns out it already existed, but I came to it independently.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
That or they all have the same marketing agency, which I find less likely.
Yeah, I don't think that's probably
Man. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Please check us out at Patreon at patreon.com/getoffset. For as little as $5 a month, you can get access to our exclusive Discord server. We also have merch at getoffsetpodcast.com/shop. Please like, comment, subscribe for more stuff like this. Might have some other interesting videos this week that you might want to see. Wink, wink, hint, hint. And if you're
note-a-mig.
watching live, you can still super chat us in the premiere chat. If you are not watching during the premiere, there's a say thanks button down below. If you do feel compelled to drop us a couple bucks, we always appreciate it. It's always
No, thank you
nice.
so much. Yeah.
The last thing is I have some affiliate links in the video description for Sweetwater, Perfect Circuit, Reverb, and Seymour Duncan, among others. Please consider using those affiliate links next time you think about shopping. It's a great way to support this channel, this podcast, doing things we're probably going to do anyway. So let's just be honest with ourselves and each other. Again, cost you $0 extra, but we do get a portion of that sale shared with us. And let me tell you, saying shared sale is tricky. So Go me, I got it right the first time. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, I think we pretty much covered all the bases today of what we were going to talk about. And yeah, thanks everyone for obviously joining in the live chats as always. And also, we appreciate your time, your listening, and also any kind of affiliate links you use. We appreciate that because that helps us grow in different ways. And yeah, it does me a lot.
Yeah. And rate and review on iTunes and wherever,
Yes.
Apple Podcasts, whatever the hell it's called
Please.
anymore. For everyone out there, thanks for watching/listening.
Thanks for understanding.
Until next time, my name is Emily.
I'm Jennifer.